This is Diane Mourglia-Swerdlow. Welcome to another edition of Healthy Eating. Today we're going to talk about a top sirloin roast that I have here that we're going to actually bake in the oven. Now the other day I talked to you about a crock pot and how you could put something in on your crock pot and leave it for the day and you would be fine. This you probably should plan for being around for a couple hours while it's baking, and there are a couple different ways that you can do this. Now, as I mentioned, this is a top sirloin. This is similar to what you would get in the grocery store that they would slice for a roast beef sandwich, let's say. So you'll notice there's fat on top. When you cook it, you always have the fat on top so that the flavor drips down into your meat and makes it more flavorful. Now, a top sirloin cut is a little tougher, so you want to bake it a little bit slower. And there are several ways you can do that. If you have a lot of time, you want to turn your oven on to about 225 degrees and put it in there. Now this is large. This is about an 8-pound roast because I have a big family and I plan on getting at least 2 meals out of it. So that roast this size, you're going to want to roast at 225, probably about 3.5 hours. There are other ways you can do it. I'm going to start this one at 450 degrees. It will get everything kind of warm, and then I'm going to turn it down after about 20 minutes to about 225, and this way it'll cook in about 90 minutes to 2 hours. But before I put it in, I want to show you my marinade I'm going to make over here. I have Annie's Dijon mustard, about 1/2 cup, and I have organic apple vinegar, unpasteurized and unfiltered. You want to be able to see what they call the mother in the bottom. I also have Bragg's apple cider vinegar, which I use as well. I have 2 tablespoons of that, so that's going to go into my mustard. I have 1.5 teaspoons of black pepper. I have 2 tablespoons of basil, and I have 1 tablespoon of tarragon. Now, I mentioned to you before, when I do meat, I don't cook it with sea salt because sea salt draws the juices out, and of course we don't want that to happen. We want the juices to be sealed inside. We'll make it a much nicer roast when you go to serve it. So I'm just going to stir all these together. Now, some of you I know may like to use a pastry brush, but as you know with me, I just kind of use what's easy, which happens to be my fingers. So I'm going to do the bottom side first and the sides, and I have it on a baking rack. First of all, I've covered my cookie sheet with foil because it's easier for cleanup. If you have it on a baking rack, it helps the heat to circulate a little bit easier around it. So I'm just going to put this on. We'll do the bottom, the sides. Like I said, I'm just going to rub it in there because I like to get it into the meat. And of course, ask that there be a lot of unconditional love and healing energy that goes into the food, so that whoever is partaking of the food, their body, their mind, their soul, their emotions, everything is being nurtured at the same time. So once I get this side covered, I'm just going to flip it over so that we can see the top. This is going to go into the fats here. So you can give it a nice coating, and of course the vinegar and the mustard, all of that helps to break down a lot of the tissues in the meat to make it more tender. And of course I like mine a little bit on the rare side. You can always cook it more, but you cannot undo it if you cook it too much. So it's better to have it a little on the rare side. And of course, once you take it out of the oven, it will continue to cook. It took me a long time to figure that out. When I was first learning to cook, I would have my meat or my steak, whatever it was in the oven, absolutely perfect. I'd take it out, let it sit, go back a few minutes later, and it was way overdone. So that was something that I had to learn, that it will continue to cook when you take it out of the oven. Now this is a meat thermometer, which I use as a general guide, and you can see it's old and dirty. I've had it for probably 10 or 15 years, and I probably paid at the time about $1.50 for it. I don't know what they are these days. They may be $10, but they're not all that expensive. You want to put this in the thickest part of your meat in the center so that you can gauge when your meat is done. Mine's still a little bit frozen in the middle, which is okay because I want mine pretty rare. So it's going to go in the middle. So when I put it in, I'll turn it around so I can actually see that. And when it hits about 140 degrees, I'm going to take it out, and then I'll let it sit for 10 or 15 minutes so the juices can set. And that's really all you need to do to prepare it. So my oven is already at 450, so I'm going to just put it in the oven right now. Turn it around so I can actually see my meat thermometer. So in it goes. And you don't put it in through the top because you don't want it into the fat, because the fat will get hotter than the meat itself. So that will affect the meat thermometer, and the temperature that you're reading will be inaccurate. So you don't want it to hit bone. If you have bone in your roast, you don't want it to go into the fat. You want it into the main meat part of the muscle. So I'm going to set my timer here for about 20 minutes, and then we'll come back without opening the oven. And then we're going to change it down to about 225 for another 90 minutes. So let's see, we'll go back to 20. Okay, and we'll start the timer. And we are off and running, so we'll come back in about 20 minutes and we'll lower the temperature, and then we'll just let it go some more. So see you in a few minutes. Alright, so now the timer just went off, so let's turn that off. And we're going to take the heat down to about 225, where we'll leave it for about 90 minutes. And I'm not going to open up the oven because that lets the heat out. Let's get this all the way down here. So you can either set your timer or check yourself. There we go. Start the timer up. Alrighty, so we'll come back and we'll look again in about 90 minutes. Alright, while the roast has been baking, I've put some vegetables into steam so that just, you know, miscellaneous things. I always like to have kind of a nice little variety of things. So we have zucchini and beans and broccoli, radishes. There's some rutabagas in there, just a little bit of everything. So that's in there steaming. The timer just went off. And let's see what we have. Okay, now I want to let it sit for a little bit so you can see what a beautiful crust the marinade has formed on the roast. It's going to continue cooking for just a little bit more. And as I said, I like mine pretty rare, so it's almost up to 120, and by the time it sets it'll be around 130. And also it will make it better for reheating it, because I plan to get 2 nights of meals out of this. If you want, you can also tent it with a little bit of foil. That will help to keep the heat in. But I'm just going to let mine sit here because I don't want this nice crust to get soft. I like to have it crunchy when I serve it. So we'll be back in a few minutes and we'll cut it, and then we're ready to eat. Okay, I've moved it over here. We're going to cut it open and we're going to get ready for our dinner. Let's see if it's the way I like it done. Oh, looks perfect. Beautiful. Okay, so you can see how lovely it is inside, and this is the way I like it. It's nice and rare. And we'll add the vegetables that I showed you earlier, and we're going to have a lovely dinner. And I look forward to sharing more of my cooking tips with you. Stay healthy, stay happy, and join me every day, expansions.com.